Dad?
This is all going too fast
You
for me,
better give
son.
me something. You better give me something fast.
For decades, rumors, cover-ups, and so-called curses have surrounded the crash that killed James Dean. But now, new details have surfaced, and they paint a much darker picture than anyone expected. This isn't just about a car accident. It's about what really led up to that final ride and why some people might have wanted the truth buried. Join us as we uncover the real story behind James Dean's crash, and why it's not the version you've been told. From Fairmount to fame. James Dean was born on February 8, 1931, in Marion, Indiana. His parents were Winton Dean, a dental technician, and Mildred Wilson Dean. His family background was unique. His mother was said to have Native American ancestry, and his father's side could be traced back to the Mayflower settlers. James was their only child. When James was still a young boy, the family moved west to Santa Monica, California, where Winton took up work in a dental lab. In California, James developed a close bond with his mother. She was his biggest supporter, especially when it came to his growing interest in the arts. But their time together was short. When James was only 9 years old, his mother died of cancer. Her death had a deep impact on him. After her passing, his father sent him back to Fairmount, Indiana, to live with his aunt and uncle, Hortense and Marcus Winslow, on their farm. Dean was raised in a quiet, religious Quaker household during his formative years. While his father served in World War II and later remarried, Dean grew up far from Hollywood, in a small town surrounded by farm life and tradition. Despite the simple setting, he was a smart, popular kid who found ways to express himself through school activities. One of the most important people in Dean's teenage life was Reverend James DeWeerd, a local pastor in Fairmount. DeWeerd became a strong mentor to Dean and introduced him to many interests that shaped the rest of his life. These included acting, car racing, bullfighting, and even reading about philosophy. DeWeerd was also said to have influenced Dean's deep emotional side, something that would later be seen in his acting. However, their close relationship has come under scrutiny in the years since. Some of Dean's biographers have suggested that DeWeerd may have sexually abused him. These claims were never officially confirmed, but Dean reportedly mentioned it privately to close friend Elizabeth Taylor years later. Whether or not this happened, it's clear DeWeerd had a strong influence on the way Dean saw the world. In high school, Dean was well-liked and active in many areas. He was involved in drama club, speech competitions, and sports. He was also known for being thoughtful and curious, always interested in learning something new. After graduating from high school in 1949, Dean returned to California to reunite with his father and attend college. He first enrolled at Santa Monica College to study pre-law, but his passion for performance took over, and he soon transferred to UCLA to study drama. At UCLA, he stood out in student plays and caught the attention of drama teachers and local directors. In 1951, Dean made a big decision. He dropped out of college to pursue acting full-time. He worked small jobs to support himself, including parking cars at a studio, while also landing small roles in commercials and early TV shows. Slowly but surely, people started to notice his unique presence on screen. Dean's big break came on the stage in New York. He earned a role in the Broadway play See the Jaguar and eventually enrolled at the famous Actors Studio, where he trained under legendary acting coach Lee Strasberg. He learned alongside actors like Marlon Brando, who became one of his biggest inspirations. By the early 1950s, Dean's mix of natural talent, emotional depth, and rebel charm caught Hollywood's attention, and his rise to stardom was just beginning. Stardom sealed in film. James Dean's entire film career as a leading actor happened in just 3 major movies. That's all it took for him to become a Hollywood legend. Each film showed a different side of him, and together, they helped shape his lasting image as a powerful, emotional, and unforgettable actor. East of Eden was James Dean's first major movie role. Directed by Elia Kazan, the film was based on a novel by John Steinbeck. Dean played Cal Trask, a troubled young man who struggles to earn the love of his distant father. The role was emotionally heavy and complex, and Dean gave it everything he had. Many say the character was close to who Dean really was: emotional, misunderstood, and desperate to connect with others. Dean's performance in East of Eden was filled with raw emotion. He cried, yelled, and brought real pain to the screen. It wasn't like the acting people were used to seeing at the time. His style was new and honest, and it left a deep impression on audiences and critics. Tragically, Dean died just before the film's full success could be celebrated. Still, his performance was recognized with an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. It was the first time in history that an actor had been nominated for an Oscar after death. This made Dean even more iconic and helped cement his place in film history. Dean's second film, Rebel Without a Cause, was released just weeks after his death. In it, he played Jim Stark, a teenager struggling to fit in at a new school. The movie showed the pain and confusion of being young, misunderstood, and angry at the world. Jim Stark wore a red jacket and had a quiet, serious look, both of which became famous symbols of youth rebellion. This role made Dean a voice for a generation of teens who felt lost or ignored by adults. Rebel Without a Cause gave them someone to relate to. The film also starred Natalie Wood and Sal Mineo, and together, the three young actors created a powerful and emotional story that connected with audiences all over the country. Even now, many years later, Jim Stark is seen as one of the most famous teen characters in movie history. Dean's final film was Giant, a big dramatic story about life in Texas. He played Jet Rink, a poor ranch hand who becomes wealthy after finding oil. It was a very different role for Dean, one that showed he could do more than just play sensitive, misunderstood young men. He aged several decades throughout the film, and his character grew from a quiet worker to a powerful oil tycoon. Dean filmed Giant shortly before his death. The movie wasn't released until almost a year later, but it showed that Dean had the ability to take on big, demanding roles. He once again earned a posthumous Oscar nomination, making him the first actor to be nominated twice after death. Before his death, Dean had already signed on for 2 more films. One was Somebody Up There Likes Me, a boxing movie that later went to Paul Newman. The other was The Left-Handed Gun, another role that Newman would take on. Sadly, both projects were canceled or recast after Dean's accident. Fans still wonder what might have been if he had lived longer. James Dean's secret scandal. While James Dean is often remembered for his talent, good looks, and tragic death, there was a darker side to his short life, one that stayed hidden for decades. Behind the fame was a private scandal involving an older man, power, manipulation, and a painful secret that nearly derailed his career before it truly began. In 1951, not long after moving to California, James Dean met Rogers Brackett while working as a parking valet. Brackett was a successful radio director in his 40s with strong connections in the entertainment industry. He took a special interest in Dean and quickly became a major part of his life. Brackett offered Dean financial support when he was struggling. He helped him find acting jobs, introduced him to the right people, and even gave him a place to stay. At first, Dean likely saw Brackett as a mentor or protector, but according to later claims and sources, their relationship took a darker turn. It's been alleged that Brackett expected something in return for all the help, specifically a romantic relationship. Dean never publicly confirmed this, but several people close to him later said the relationship became manipulative. Dean reportedly felt trapped and uncomfortable, but didn't see a way out without risking his rising career. Just weeks before East of Eden was set to premiere in 1955, Rogers Brackett suddenly filed a lawsuit against Dean. He demanded $1,200 for what he claimed were unpaid debts and personal support. The timing was suspicious and dangerous. Dean was about to become a star, and bad publicity could ruin everything. To avoid a scandal, Dean agreed to pay Brackett $800 quietly. The payments were done in secret through his lawyer. Dean even admitted later, "I didn't know it was he who paid," showing that the deal was made behind the scenes. It's believed the studio also arranged an extra finder's fee for Brackett just to keep him quiet. This was more than a personal problem. The studio was worried that if word got out about the lawsuit or the nature of the relationship, it would damage Dean's image and hurt the film's success. Back in the 1950s, even the hint of such a scandal could destroy a career. Another shocking detail later came out. During the Korean War, James Dean was expected to be drafted into military service. Brackett allegedly helped Dean avoid the draft by arranging a psychiatric exemption. This exemption was based on the false claim that Dean was gay, which, at the time, was considered grounds for disqualification. While it kept Dean out of the military, it left deep emotional scars. Being forced to lie about something so personal and having someone else take control of that narrative affected Dean's mental health and sense of identity. He was already dealing with trauma, and this only added more. For a long time, none of this was public. Dean's agent and the studio worked hard to keep the records sealed. The truth only came to light recently thanks to The Secret Life of James Dean, a book by Jason Colivito. He uncovered court records, private letters, and insider testimonies that revealed the full story for the first time. The mystery of James Dean's sexuality. James Dean's sexuality has been debated for decades. Some say he was straight, others say he was gay or bisexual. The truth is complicated, and much of it was kept quiet during his lifetime. In a time when being openly gay or bisexual could destroy a career, Dean walked a fine line. His words, relationships, and the way Hollywood handled his personal life all added layers to the mystery. James Dean once said, "No, I am not a homosexual. I'm not going through life with one hand tied behind my back." That statement has been quoted often, and many believe it shows his view of sexuality. He didn't want to be labeled, and he seemed to reject the idea of limiting himself to one identity. In today's terms, we might say he expressed sexual fluidity, being open to attraction across gender lines. But in the 1950s, such honesty was rare, and it made Dean stand out even more. Several of Dean's closest relationships were with men, and some included a romantic or sexual element. His connection with Rogers Brackett, a wealthy older man, has been described as more than mentorship, although Dean may not have entered the relationship willingly. Another important figure was William Bast, Dean's college roommate and lifelong friend. Bast later confirmed that the two had a one-night sexual encounter. He said it didn't define their entire friendship, but it did happen, and Dean didn't seem ashamed. There were also rumors of a secret relationship with fellow actor Marlon Brando. Some sources claimed they had a dominant/submissive relationship, involving power play and possible S&M. However, those stories remain unproven, and Brando never spoke openly about them. Actor and writer John Gilmore, who knew Dean, said Dean experimented sexually with both men and women. Director Nicholas Ray, who worked with Dean on Rebel Without a Cause, stated plainly, James Dean was bisexual. While no one can say exactly how Dean saw himself, it's clear he explored both sides of his sexuality. Dean also had deep romantic ties to several women. In 1952, he dated actress Liz Sheridan, who later called it a magical romance. They met in New York when both were starting their careers, and she said Dean was tender, sweet, and passionate. Barbara Glenn was another girlfriend. Letters written by Dean to her were sold at auction decades later, and they reveal how emotional and affectionate he could be. The two shared a strong connection, even though their relationship didn't last. Dean also had a short, stormy relationship with actress Beverly Wills, but his most famous love was Pier Angeli, an Italian actress he met on a film set. They were close and even talked about having children. They exchanged jewelry, including a silver cross and a ring. Some say they were soulmates. However, their romance didn't end happily. Angeli's mother didn't approve of Dean because he wasn't Catholic. At the same time, the studio didn't want him to settle down, believing it would hurt his image. Years later, biographers like William Bast and John Howlett questioned whether the relationship was real or partly created for publicity. Still, a wedding pamphlet with Pierre's name was found among Dean's personal items after his death, proof that the feelings may have been real. Barbara Glenn was another girlfriend. Letters written by Dean to her were sold at auction decades later, and they reveal how emotional and affectionate he could be. The two shared a strong connection, even though their relationship didn't last. Dean also had a short, stormy relationship with actress Beverly Wills, but his most famous love was Pier Angeli, an Italian actress he met on a film set. They were close and even talked about having children. They exchanged jewelry, including a silver cross and a ring. Some say they were soulmates. However, their romance didn't end happily. Angeli's mother didn't approve of Dean because he wasn't Catholic. At the same time, the studio didn't want him to settle down, believing it would hurt his image. Years later, biographers like William Bast and John Howlett questioned whether the relationship was real or partly created for publicity. Still, a wedding pamphlet with Pierre's name was found among Dean's personal items after his death, proof that the feelings may have been real. The speed obsession. James Dean wasn't just an actor, he was also a passionate racer. His love for speed and machines grew fast after his breakthrough in Hollywood. When filming was over, he didn't head to parties or take long vacations. Instead, he went straight to the racetrack. Cars and motorcycles gave Dean a sense of freedom and excitement that acting couldn't match. Dean's interest in racing really took off after filming East of Eden. With his rising fame and new income, he bought a Triumph motorcycle and a sleek Porsche 356 Speedster. These weren't just for show. He rode and drove them regularly. Dean was drawn to the thrill of racing and the focus it required. Unlike his chaotic Hollywood life, racing gave him a clear goal: go fast and win. By early 1955, Dean had started entering races. Friends said he was deeply serious about it. He didn't just want to be a celebrity at the track. He wanted to be respected as a real competitor. James Dean's racing career was short, but impressive. In March 1955, he entered the Palm Springs Road Races. It was his first competitive event. Driving his Porsche 356, Dean won first place in the novice class and came in second overall. It was a stunning debut for someone so new to the sport. A month later, in April 1955, he competed in Bakersfield. This time, he won his class again and finished third overall. His talent was becoming clear. He wasn't just fast, he was smart on the track and knew how to control his car under pressure. In May 1955, Dean entered the Santa Barbara road races, but his car's engine failed early in the race, forcing him to drop out. It was disappointing, but Dean didn't lose hope. He was already thinking about how to improve, how to go faster, and how to win bigger races. His goal wasn't just weekend races, he wanted to climb to the top of the racing world. As filming for Giant began, Warner Brothers grew worried about Dean's racing habit. The studio feared he might get hurt or killed before finishing the movie, which would cause a huge financial loss. They made him promise to stop racing until filming wrapped. Dean agreed, but insiders said he didn't like the restriction. To him, racing was just as important as acting. Though he kept his word for a while, Dean was already planning a return to racing as soon as Giant was done. James Dean had big dreams for his racing future, and one of his biggest goals was to compete in the Indianapolis 500, one of the most famous races in the world. He also wanted to move beyond amateur racing and enter professional events. He had the talent, the drive, and the early success to back it up. But that dream never came true. Just weeks after filming Giant, Dean's obsession with speed would take a dark and final turn. The tragic final ride. James Dean's death shocked the world and ended a life that was just beginning to shine. At only 24 years old, he had already become a symbol of youth, rebellion, and raw talent. His final day, September 30th, 1955, has been carefully documented, yet it still feels tragic and sudden every time the story is told. Dean had recently bought a new car, a silver Porsche 550 Spider. It was sleek, fast, and much more powerful than his previous Porsche 356. Dean nicknamed the car Little Bastard, a name that would become forever tied to the tragedy. The car had custom paintwork, including the number 130 on the doors and hood, and the name written across the rear. He was excited about the vehicle and eager to test its limits at his next race. The Spider was made for racing, with a lightweight frame and a powerful rear engine. It was known for its agility and speed, but also for how difficult it could be to handle, especially at high speeds or on unfamiliar roads. On the morning of September 30th, 1955, James Dean was heading to Salinas, California, for a sports car race scheduled for October 1st. He chose to drive the Porsche directly to the race instead of towing it, hoping to break in the engine during the drive. Dean wasn't alone. His friend and Porsche mechanic, Rolf Wutherick, rode in the passenger seat. Wutherick had come along to help tune the car and ensure it was race-ready. Following behind them in another vehicle were Bill Hickman, a stuntman and Dean's close friend, and Sanford Roth, a photographer who planned to document the trip for a magazine. The group left Hollywood and traveled north. At one point, Dean received a speeding ticket for going 65 miles per hour in a 55 miles per hour zone. It was the last warning he'd ever get. At about 5:45 p.m., the group reached the intersection of Route 466 and Route 41 near Cholula, California. Coming from the opposite direction was a young college student named Donald Turnipseed, driving a 1950 Ford Tudor coupe. As Turnipseed tried to make a left turn across the road, his car entered Dean's lane. The Porsche, moving quickly and low to the ground, collided nearly head-on with the Ford. The impact crushed the small Porsche. Dean's side of the car took the full force of the hit. He suffered multiple severe injuries, including a broken neck. Although emergency services arrived quickly, James Dean was pronounced dead at 6:20 p.m. Wutherick was thrown from the car, but survived with serious injuries. Turnipseed had only minor cuts and bruises. He was not found to be at fault, and no charges were filed. The news spread fast. James Dean, one of Hollywood's brightest new stars, was gone. The loss of James Dean hit fans and the film industry hard. His death didn't just mark the end of a promising career, it froze him in time, forever young, forever iconic. Dean's funeral was held on October 8, 1955, in his hometown of Fairmount, Indiana. It was a cold and rainy day. The service took place at the Fairmount Friends Church, where Dean had spent part of his childhood attending Quaker services with his aunt and uncle. The casket was closed due to the damage his body had suffered in the crash. Over 3,000 people gathered in Fairmount to pay their respects. Only about 600 were able to fit inside the small church. The rest stood outside, silent and heartbroken. Friends, family, fans, and people from the film industry all came to say goodbye. His high school classmates, neighbors, and even strangers came from other states. Everyone felt the weight of the moment. James Dean had become more than just a movie star. He had become a symbol. After the service, Dean was buried at Park Cemetery, located near the farm where he had grown up. His grave is simple, marked with a stone that bears his name, birth, and death dates, and a small image of him. To this day, thousands of fans visit the cemetery each year. Many leave flowers, notes, or small items to show their respect. Some write letters and place them on the headstone. The connection people feel to Dean has never faded, even after so many decades. In 1977, a Japanese fan named Sata Onishi commissioned a memorial sculpture to be placed near the crash site in Cholula, California. The memorial features a stainless steel structure and a plaque with a quote from The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. What is essential is invisible to the eye. The sculpture serves as a place for fans to reflect, grieve, and honor Dean's life. In 2005, the state of California officially named the location James Dean Memorial Junction, marking it on the map forever. The Curse of the Spider. After James Dean's death, stories quickly spread that his Porsche 550 Spider was cursed. Over the years, many people have connected accidents, injuries, and even deaths to the car. Whether it was superstition, coincidence, or something else, the tale of the curse has lived on for decades. One of the first and most chilling parts of the story came from British actor Alec Guinness, who later became famous for playing Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. Just 1 week before Dean's fatal crash, the two met outside a restaurant in Hollywood. Dean proudly showed off his brand-new silver Porsche and invited Guinness to take a look. According to Guinness, when he saw the car, he had a terrible feeling. He claimed he told Dean, "If you get in that car, you'll be dead in it by this time next week." Sadly, that eerie prediction came true. Dean died exactly 7 days later. Whether this was a lucky guess, intuition, or just a strange coincidence, it became part of the legend surrounding the car. After the crash, what was left of the Porsche was bought by George Barris, a well-known car customizer in Hollywood. Barris claimed the car had mysterious powers, and not the good kind. He began telling the press that wherever the car or its parts went, trouble followed. Barris said that while the car was stored in his garage, it slipped off a trailer and broke a mechanic's leg. Then, he reported that 2 doctors, Troy McHenry and William Eschrich, bought parts from the wreck. McHenry used parts from the Porsche in his race car and was later killed during a race. Eschrich also used parts in his car and was involved in a crash, though he only had minor injuries. Not everyone agrees with the curse theory. In fact, Lee Raskin, a journalist and expert on James Dean's life and racing career, strongly disputes it. Raskin says many of the stories were invented, or at least exaggerated, by George Barris to gain publicity. According to Raskin, Barris only had the car shell, not the full vehicle, and most of the incidents he mentioned were either unverified or never happened. For example, the story about the car falling and breaking a mechanic's leg isn't supported by any record. And while it's true that McHenry died in a crash, racing was already a dangerous sport. There's no clear proof that the parts from Dean's car caused his death. As for Dr. William Eschrich, who used the Porsche's engine in his own car, he did have a minor accident, but he was not seriously hurt. Raskin believes the idea of a curse was mostly a way to keep Dean's story alive in the media and sell more books and appearances. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened to the last pieces of Dean's Porsche. That mystery keeps the legend alive. Whether you believe in the curse or not, the Porsche has become more than just a car. It's a symbol of rebellion, tragedy, and the dark side of Hollywood legend. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a story like this.